Excellencies, ministers, honoured officials from the multilateral agencies, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this, the third session of the Global Small Island Developing States Leaders, also known as SIDS. My name is Juliet Foster, and over the next 90 minutes, I shall be guiding you through what I believe will be a lively and thought-provoking debate on SIDS and technologies of communication and information. The organisers of GSL are grateful for the very kind sponsorship of Bayer in supporting these debates at transnational level. So thank you so much for your support. Let's now focus on the topic in hand. It's fair to say that the growth of technology has been nothing short of extraordinary, and that staggering rate of advance is showing few signs of slowing down. If you want to know just how staggering it is, then I'm about to dazzle you with some figures. By 2025, some 38.6 billion smart devices around the world will be collecting, analysing and sharing data. The web hosting services market is poised to generate over $77 billion. And currently, 4.66 billion of us around the world are internet users, although I suspect that figure has gone up since I first wrote it down. So what does that mean for small island states? Well, these states are among the beneficiaries of what futurologists have dubbed the fourth industrial revolution. Information communication technology is expected to mitigate some of the challenges that SIDS typically face because of their geographical remoteness, especially by facilitating access to product and service suppliers. The bottom line is that ICD is the foundation enabling SIDS to diversify their economies, boost their manufacturing output, obtain greater access to global supply and value chains, and improve their disaster preparedness, points that were highlighted in the 2014 Samoa SIDS Pathway UN report. Well, 7 years on from that historic publication, SIDS are continuing to make big, important strides in terms of the affordability and universality of their ICT networks. Mobile broadband coverage across the SIDS now covers 85% of the population, while the price of 500 megabits of mobile data has dropped from 15% of gross national income per capita to 8%. At the same time, the percentage of individuals living and working on these islands using the internet has risen to 56% between 2014 and 2018. So this is essentially a good news story, except the progress does conceal many challenges for small islands. Research points to ICT skills shortages, making it difficult to derive benefits from increasing upstream technology. There's also the issue of take-up. In the small island of Cabo Verde, just off the African continent, for example, around half of the population not using the internet said the most important reason why they didn't take it up was because they didn't know how to use it. Not to be forgotten in this debate is the continuing gender challenge in digital employment in some SIDS. In other words, how can we do more to back up the development of women in technology and digital entrepreneurship? I would like to invite to the floor His Excellency Jean-Paul Carteron, who is Ambassador of the Solomon Islands to UNESCO and the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. Ambassador Carteron is the co-founder of the GSL initiative with his colleague, Ambassador David Doyle. Donc, Monsieur Ambassadeur Carteron, bienvenue à cet environnement et la parole est maintenant à vous.
Thank you, Juliette. Thank you to David. Thanks to him, we started with this GSL initiative and it is expanding now month after month. We have two main partners who are Seychelles, with the support of the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Radegonde of Seychelles. We have also Dominican Republic, with the support of Mario Arvelo, who is the ambassador of Dominican Republic to FAO. And we are expecting in the next week to come a number of other delegations, other governments joining us in order to implement this new concept of transversal diplomacy that we wish for the future in order to address concretely the main issues related to small islands. I would like to thank Bayer. Bayer, we saw a beautiful movie of presentation, Bayer is supporting us, and I welcome Natasha Santos. Natasha is a brilliant and respected woman, highly qualified, and her activity at Bayer Crop Science Division as Vice President and Head of Stakeholder Strategy and Affairs is key for addressing issues of agriculture, food, and food security. She will speak about a very special issue, which is digital tools which are transforming agriculture and improving the life of millions of persons, improving or being in position of improving if we develop them. We will have also, and I would like just to say in a few words who are our guests. I thank all of them for accepting to participate in this debate. Angel Miguel Moratinos. Moratinos is the United Nations Under Secretary General, holding the post of High Representative for the United Nations Alliance of Civilization. If you did not have the opportunity to verify the activities of the United Nations Alliance of Civilization, I would suggest that you inform yourself, because it's a very, very key and important initiative of United Nations. He was Spanish Minister of Foreign Affairs and very respected EU Special Representative for the Middle East peace process. He worked a lot in the Middle East, and it would be useless to introduce Mr. Moratinos. Mr. Courtenay-Rattray is the United Nations High Representative for the least developed countries, landlocked developing countries, and small island developing states. Thank you, Mr. Rattray. You are the person in charge of all these issues in New York. And I know that when you were ambassador of Jamaica to United Nations, you already served as co-chair of the group of friends of the Sustainable Development Goals financing. Peter Kenny-Laurea, co-president of the ACP-EU Joint Parliamentary Assembly. Mr. Kenny-Laurea is MP in Solomon Islands. He is actually, for him, it is midnight. Thank you to be with us. It's late. You served as an international civil servant in the United Nations Secretariat in New York, and as permanent secretary of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Honiara. Altai Sengizer, with a recording contribution because at the last moment he could not make it, is president of the General Conference of UNESCO, actually, and he will chair this conference in a few weeks when we open it. Malcolm Johnson, ITU Deputy Secretary General, replacing Gulin Zhao, the Secretary General. Mr. Johnson is one of the most respected ICT experts in the world, and his role as ITU is now key as far as so many post-COVID issues have to be addressed. Thank you, Mr. Johnson, also to be with us. Nikhil Seth, I will say that we are close friends. Nikhil Seth is the Executive Director of the United Nations Institute for Training and Research. He has 30 years of service as an international and national civil servant, and a wealth of experience in leading, supporting, and managing complex portfolios, intergovernmental process, including United Nations conferences in the economic, social, and environment fields. He served as the head of the Office of the Secretary General of the United Nations Conference on Sustainable Development, and I like that Nikhil is with us today because so many issues are related to his competence and his experience, and we wait for him to share it with us. And finally, I would like to thank Juliette, because Juliette has been accompanying us during the first sessions, now with these ICT sessions. And be sure, Juliette, that we appreciate your dedication, your time, your energy, your competence. And now I give you the floor back. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Monsieur Ambassador. Je vous remercie. That's the last of my French. In fact, I'm not going to inflict more of it on you, but thank you so much for that wonderful address. And I'd like to put this question as well to Ambassador Doyle and Ambassador Carteron, because look, given the difficulties that we are seeing, issues about the take-up rate and the level of ICT penetration, etc., it is essentially uneven. The real worry is that some SIDS will be more or less advanced in their growth than others. And shouldn't we really be concerned about that, given that these countries are also dealing with issues arising from their geography?
Yeah, I can perhaps offer some thoughts here. I mean, one of the big challenges in any small island developing state, 38 of them recognized by the UN system, is a limited pool of talent. That's the way we refer to these islands. You get some very talented people, but there are very few of them. And when it comes to developing and building regulatory capacity, developing applications and services associated with ICT, SIDS really does suffer from a chronic shortage of both software developers and the kind of innovative entrepreneurs that enable and galvanize, ecosystems that are normally associated with bigger countries. But, here, this is where, again, I go back to, the role of international organizations, the UN family of organizations. The UN World Bank, for instance, has a very innovative, very compelling, successful entrepreneurship program for innovation in the Caribbean, which was launched a number of years ago, which helps to develop, high-tech startups through connection to several components with other large developed states. So perhaps what we need to do is to expand this World Bank Entrepreneurship for Innovation program, perhaps link it up with some input from ITU, from UNITAR on the training and educational side, perhaps from UNESCO as well, and maybe the World Bank, which has the financial capacity to be able to advise in this area of financing innovation. But quite visibly, this has to be done, though, on a transnational basis. It is not the role of any one UN organization. And we need to, I think, come together and build and galvanize the best of experience across the entire UN family, but also not to exclude, by the way, the European Union and other international organizations, and indeed non-government organizations that have some expertise in this area of developing software developers and innovative entrepreneurs. Jean-Paul, perhaps you have something to say?
Yes, the real question, Juliette, is the issue of world integration. If I speak of the Pacific region, David is coming from Caribbean Islands. It is 8 to 9 hours of plane. When you go to Solomon Islands, and it is the closest country from Europe, the first one, just 2 hours and a half from Australia. From Paris, you must fly and spend time in airports for about 30 hours. So it is 60 hours to go and to come back. And we are talking of one of the specific issues related to the SIDS and to the Pacific, which is ICT. But globally, we should find a way of integrating these countries in the world concert. I welcome, since 12 years, I have been ambassador of Solomon Islands. I welcome from time to time delegations from the country I represent. And they are very competent, very active We have a lot of contacts. Every minister does his best. But when he is back, he is in another world. And as Peter said, ICTs are the key to integration, but it is so difficult to realize integration because the lack of communication and the difficulties of traveling to these countries. So I have been pleading at UNESCO and other international organizations for Pacific to be considered as a continent in itself. When I was at school, I learned that Pacific was a continent. And now we are put together with other Far Eastern countries, and we are not helped in the way of integration. And it is a long fight, a long process. And I am very happy that a man like Peter Kenny-Laurea is now chairing the Parliamentary Assembly of ACP, because it is a priority. We cannot be out of the game. We cannot be out of the game because there is a lack of human resources. There is a lack of financial resources. The diplomatic network of Pacific states is very, very low. They don't have enough diplomats. They are not represented. When I go to FAO meetings in Roma, all Pacific countries are represented on the paper, but I am the only Pacific ambassador. So excuse me to say these words, but it is a real problem. And of course, ICT allows to do what we are doing, and it is exceptional that we can speak with Peter, who is actually in Honiara, and having this connection, but it is not enough. So I try to work, I try to improve the things, and we must, all of us, find new ways of what is called world integration. Thank you, Juliette.
Thank you for that, Ambassador Carteron. Everybody
Yes.
here, thank you so much for your participation, and also to those of our panel who had to leave us because they had to attend various meetings, etc. But the contributions were most welcome, and there are grounds for optimism. There is a willingness for people to partner up, to work together, to bridge those gaps, because we've explored the importance of technology to SID states, the differences that they can make, and there's been no running away from the intricacies of the issues that are involved. They are very, very forensic, but there is no fear in taking these on and winning, because at the end of the day, the SID states, they have skin in the game, to take that phrase from you, Ambassador Carteron. But there we must leave it. Thank you so much, and good luck going forward, and I hope to meet you again in the not too distant future. Thank you.